Thank you so much. Thank you, members, and for the department. This is a briefing as per the agenda item in terms of community safety, cultural affairs and sport. And as per the agenda item, you would have noted in my email specific reference to the flow of the meeting this morning. Firstly, we will deal with community safety on its first, second and third quarterly report, quarterly performance reports for 2019-2020. But be welcomed. I trust that you are all doing well. But I will now allow members to introduce themselves, whereafter to the HOD and the department. Over to you, members.
Good morning, Chairperson, Department, Lorraine Botha.
Good morning, colleagues. Gillian Bosman.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Honorable Ellen, Regan Ellen, as a member Brankes. Good morning.
Chair, you must unmute yourself.
Thank you so much for the reminder, Member Botha. I have not noted any other apology for one of the members, but do any of the members know of an apology?
Thank you, Chair. I was just called now by Member Pants that I should submit her apology. I think she's struggling she has no network and now she's traveling to Cape Town.
That will be duly noted. Thank you, Member Kama. With us online is our capable procedural officer together with IT staff, but with Wasim Matthews being here, thank you for being online, sir. I will now hand over directly to the department for introductions. Over to the HOD.
Good morning, Chairperson, honourable members. I hope you can hear me clearly. May I also please offer apologies for Minister Fritz, who is attending Cabinet this morning with a visit from the Deputy Minister of Health. And then, Chair, I'm joined this morning by the team, Advocate Yashina Pillay, and as well as Nuran Galant and Miss Lindy Govender. I don't know if you want them to introduce themselves, Chair, or whether that will suffice.
Thank you so much, HOD. That will suffice for now. During input and question time, if you can give direction pertaining to which official will be answering any questions. Thank you so much for being here. If there's any members of the media or PMG online, you are welcomed as well. As I stated earlier on, we are dealing with the quarterly performance reports. But just for the record, in terms of the rules of engagement for virtual meetings, I'm going to rehash it again. But in terms of how we're going to proceed, that all members will be muted. And Wasim will be taking the lead in that regard at the beginning of the meeting to avoid any background noises. The chairperson will then, you will then flag if you need any communication directly to me via the chat function, or you can raise your hand. I will also encourage that all videos and audio must be switched off to improve the quality of our connection. However, if a member or the minutes or the HOD or any official is speaking, they may put their mic and video on. Also, participants must switch off their mics once they have finished speaking. I trust that you find that in order. I will now hand over directly to the department to brief us and to present us on the quarterly performance reports for the first, second and third quarters for 2019-2020. Over to you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. If I can just correct myself, I see we have Ms. Ansaf Mohammed as well as Mr. David Kutsia online with us as well. Chairperson, with your permission, I'll hand over to Ms. Nuran Galant, who will be doing the presentation, and we will then be on standby for any questions. Please, Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD.
Good morning, HOD. Good morning, Chairperson and members. I will share my presentation. Thank you. Good morning. The department will present the annual performances for the 1920 financial year. The information is pre-audited performance information as validated by the Directorate Strategic Services and Communication. For the 2019 financial year, the department achieved 96% of the planned targets, meaning that 101 targets were planned for the year and 97 planned targets were achieved. The presentation provides an overview of the annual achievements per program and a breakdown per sub-program, including reasons for all over and under achievements. Moving over to the overview, Program 1, Management Support. The program achieved 100% of the planned targets for the year. The Corporate Services Sub-Directorate overachieved on one target, and this was in relation to the Community Safety, Media and Public Relation initiatives. Refer to slide 14 for the details. Program 2, Civilian Oversight. The program achieved 95% of the planned targets for the year. Safety Promotion, one target was underachieved for the year, and this is with reference to the safety outreach deployments. Refer to slide.
Yeah, thank you.
Refer to slide 20 for the details. Community Police Relations, one strategic objective performance indicator was underachieved. Slide 21 has the details. Moving on to Program 3, Provincial Policing Functions. The program achieved 91% of the planned targets for the year. Safety Promotions, 2 targets were overachieved for the year, and this is with reference to work opportunities created with partners and youth trained. And then 1 strategic objective performance indicator was underachieved. The details of these are on slide 23 and 24. The Western Cape Police Ombudsman, 1 target was overachieved for the year, and this is in relation to the outreach initiatives conducted by the Office of the Western Cape Police Ombudsman. The details of that will be on slide 24. Then lastly, Program 4, Security Risk Management. The program achieved 96% of planned targets for the year. Program Support, 1 target was underachieved for the year, and this is with reference to the Transversal Security Managers Forum. Refer to slide 26. And then 1 target was overachieved with reference to the safety engagements with accredited neighborhood watches, and the details for that will be on slide 27. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, I wonder if you want us to take you through the more detailed reports as well at this stage.
Thank you so much to Ms. Nuran Galant and HOD. Thank you. That will be in order, yes. As per the agenda, we have until 9. Let me just double check to be sure. We will give you until 9:45, sir, whereafter we will then engage in terms of input and questions. But at this time, I would also want to welcome Member Ferlin Christians. Over to you again, HOD. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Galant, if you can put up the more detailed slides as well then, please.
Will do, HOD. The following slides is more detailed per breakdown per sub-program. Today, I'm not sure, would you like me only to go through to the slides where there was over and under achievements?
I think if you can just do a summary on each slide, but then spend a bit more time on those that are underachieved, please, through you, Chair.
That's all in order. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Chair. Program 1, this is the sub-program 1.1 and 1.2. This is the Office of the MEC and the Office of the HOD. For the year, they had 3 indicators, and all 3 indicators were then achieved for the year. Sub-program 1.3 is financial management. They had 10 indicators for the year, and as you can see, all indicators have been achieved for the financial year. Moving on to sub-program 1.4, strategic services and communication. For the year, strategic service and communication had 12 indicators. All indicators were achieved. The overachievement is in relation to indicator 1.4.10. This is the Community Safety, Media and Public Relation Initiative. This overachievement for the year is due to accelerated marketing media campaigns and social media and free articles placed with partner organizations. Moving on to program 2, civilian oversight. Your program support, 2 indicators for the year, and both indicators was then achieved for the year. Sub-program 2.2, 11 indicators for the year, all indicators was achieved for the year. Sub-program 2.3, monitoring and evaluation, 11 indicators for the year, all indicators have been achieved for the financial year. Sub-program 2.4, safety promotion, 4 indicators for the year. 1 indicator was underachieved, and this is indicator 243, your youth safety outreach deployment. And the underachievement was due to the cancellation of the Q4 outreach schedule for March, and it was cancelled as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sub-program 2.5, community police relation. They had 8 indicators for the year. They achieved all except for the strategic objective performance indicator, and that was to promote good community police relations by ensuring CPF compliance on the expanded partnership program. Their target was 151 for the year. They achieved 142, and this was due to CPFs being volunteers, and not all are willing to participate on the expanded partnership program. Then sub-program 3.1, safety partnerships. They had 7 indicators for the year. They underachieved with their strategic performance objective performance indicator, and this is to create partnerships between the department and organizations who contribute in the field of safety and security. For the year, they identified to create 1,100, but they only achieved 192. Reason being that this is the first time the department created and measured the number of partnerships for reporting purposes. This target will always be difficult to determine, as one of the partnerships can lead to any number of work opportunities which cannot be determined at the beginning of the year when the target is set. The underachievement is therefore due to the level of partnerships that DOCS was unable to enter into the financial year. However, even though they have 1 underachievement, they had 2 overachievements, and this was in relation to the existing and new work opportunities created with the partners. Again, their target for the year was 1,100, and then they achieved 1,388, and this was due to the demand of EPWP workers to work on the YSRP program. The other overachievement was in relation to the youth trained by partners. Their target was 1,000, and then they achieved 1,220. And this was due to the training of school resource officers as a feeder for the LEAP training and deployment in accordance with the requirements of the Western Cape Safety Plan. Then looking at the sub-program 3.2, which is the Office of the Ombudsman, they achieved all their targets. They had 4 for the year. They overachieved on 1, which is the outreach initiatives conducted, and that was due to the additional outreach activities that they undertook in respect of the Overstrand investigation. Then if we move on to sub-program 4.1, security risk management, the program support, they had 12 indicators for the year, 1 underachievement for the year, and that was in relation to the Transversal Security Managers Forums meetings facilitated. That was due to the Q4 meeting had to be cancelled because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that resulted in the cancellation of all gatherings. And the other overachievement in this regard was the planned safety engagements with accredited neighborhood watches. They scheduled initially 4 for the year, but they achieved 11. And that was due to the additional requests being received from accredited neighborhood watch structures to address issues ad hoc. And then the department responded to these requests by way of ad hoc engagements in addition to what was planned. For sub-program 4.2, Provincial Security Provisioning, all targets achieved, and they had 7 targets, 7 indicators, my apologies, for the year. Then sub-program 4.3, Security Advisory Services, my apologies, they had 6 indicators set for the year, and all was achieved for the financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So I'll hand over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Ms. Galant and HOD. Members, we are doing well for time in terms of the presentation, and I believe that you have engaged and read the presentation prior to it being presented this morning. I will now take a round of hands that would like to give input or questions at this time. I've noted first member Ferlin Christians. Any other members? Member Kama. Any other members? In that order, for input and questions, I'll hand over to member Christians.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. I was waiting to join, and I don't know what thing I was, because I just came out of a meeting, and then I had to phone the coordinator to get me on this Microsoft Teams. So sorry for being late. I was on another thing. I don't know where I was, but thank you, Chair. Chair, we always look at the programs and what is achieved, and we always, if I say we always talk about is the targets. Sometimes we set departments set targets, and it's achieved and not achieved, and sometimes we ask if it's realistic targets and those type of things. But the one question that I have, of course, is a sub-program 3.1 with the creating of partnerships between the department and organizations. Now that is 192 to 1,100. Now that's far off. I'm highlighting that one because if it's only by, not the target's not so far off, then that you usually miss it with not a lot. But this is really, really far off, and even the overachievements, it's a couple of hundred, but this is very, very far off. So what is the department going to do better this time around? And of course, the HOD is along with the department, so he knows that 1,100 figure doesn't come from just anywhere. It's you put down a realistic figure hoping and working hard to achieve that figure. So I just want to know, with this figure is completely off, where did they get the 1,100 from, and why did they do so poorly? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians. Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair, and let me welcome the presentation by the department, and perhaps, Chair, show our appreciation for the work that the officials of the department are putting in. Chair, one question I was going to ask has been asked by Member Christians. Perhaps to also ask, Chair, that maybe a broader explanation be given to this underachievement. It might be that the target on its own was unrealistic, as he was, as Member Christian has alluded. But Chair, the other question I have is on slide 19. When it comes to the reports, I see we've met the targets that we have set. But perhaps to ask Chair that when it comes to this report, we get a sense of how are we received when we conduct these oversight visits, how do we collect the data, and where do we involve subs, so that we don't have a situation like what we got in a committee we had with the detection services. I think they were doing the annual report where they dispute some of the reports. I don't know whether it was a report or it was a study at the time, but how are we received and how do we conduct these visits, Chair? That's one question. The other question I have, Chair, is on slide 21. I think this seems to feature, I think even the last time we're doing reports, it was cited that there are CPFs that that are not willing to participate in the EPP program. I just want to get a sense if it's still the same CPFs, and if we can perhaps even get an understanding of the areas these CPFs operate, and whether the high crime areas, whether these CPFs are also part of those that are supposed to be in the high crime areas, Chair. And perhaps what are we doing to address this moving forward? Because yes, they might not be willing, but as a department, we have an interest of making sure that we have functioning community policing forums in these areas, especially if they exist in the high crime areas. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kama. Before I hand over to Member Botha, I want to check with the HOD. HOD, were you able to get a question from Member Kama? It was breaking up my side a bit.
Yes,
but could
Chair,
you follow?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, I think we got the content of the question. I could hear Mr. Kama clearly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, HOD. Thank you, Member Kama. Member Botha.
Thank you, Chair, and I hope that I am audible. I'm latching on to what Member Kama asked, his last question, and I also want to understand the reasons for them not participating. And where are the CPFs, if we can understand in what areas. And then, Chair, just a general question on the report. I want to congratulate the department for its achievements. I also then in the same breath want to understand how does this report compare to the report in the previous financial year for the same period. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Botha. I'll first hand over to the department, but there will be a second round of questions and input as well. Over to you, HOD.
Thank you, Chair. I'll also ask especially Advocate Pillay to supplement some of the questions. Let me also start firstly, Chair, by expressing our appreciation for the kind words that was said by the members in acknowledging the work that mostly the staff are doing. We truly appreciate. Equally so, we appreciate your guidance and your leadership. Chairperson, let me then go to the first question of Mr. Christian's, target 311 on the partnership, which Mr. Kama also touched on. Chairperson, as Ms. Galant also highlighted in her presentation, this is a new target, and it's about the number of partnerships that we could create to place all the chrysalis graduates. As you know, Chair, we have about 750 of the chrysalis graduates. Once they complete their training, we secure an opportunity for each and every one of them. So we have 100% placement rate at currently. So as a new target, Chairperson, looking at historic trends, we were looking at how many of them will be placed at which organizations, and that's how we then came up with the target. But very shortly in the year, Chair, our methodology changed a bit. In that instead of placing chrysalis graduates all over, so to speak, in small numbers, we increasingly started placing them in larger numbers at particular placement institutions. So if in an attempt to articulate this better, Chairperson, let's say in the past we would have had 5 or 6 placements in an area like Worcester. Now we only have 1 placement. Many of them are then either the local municipality or social development or whoever we then find is what we term to be a capable partner. So it is a case, Chairperson, of a poor target being set at the beginning of the year because we then changed our strategy very early, and that resulted. And at the end of the day, Chair, we had to decide what is in the interest of the youngsters, the chrysalis students, and some very exciting partnerships came to the fore. Originally it was correctional services, and then also the National Prosecuting Authority took quite a number of the chrysalis graduates, which we then placed with the National Prosecuting Authority to help with administrative work, and we are still hoping to expand that partnership into a paralegal opportunity. I think, Chairperson, the question on slide 21 on the CPE, the CPF EPP, may I just, in our defense, Chairperson, respectfully indicate to the members that the vast majority of the CPFs, 145 out of 151, is actually participating. So it remains to be a small group of CPFs. It's not always exactly the same. I'll ask Advocate Pillay to gather quickly and provide the detail of which CPFs. I think from our side, Chairperson, the EPP payment model, as you know, it is a payment for performance model. It's not based on projects. It is based on evidence that the CPF can provide us that they are indeed performing the statutory functions as is set out in Section 18 of the Police Services Act. If I can use a practical example, Chairperson, Section 18 of the Police Services Act would, for instance, require that the CPF promote transparency between the police and the community, Section 18(1)(3). And what we'll then do is we'll ask from the CPF to demonstrate how they are promoting transparency. And if, for instance, they have a newsletter, they have a Facebook page, they're having public meetings, then we will then basically provide them with financial support for that. The CPFs that's not participating, Chairperson, some of them are opposed to the project, and they have voiced this strongly in the past. Remember, before we introduced the EPP program, what basically happened is that the department transferred large amounts of money to the provincial board, and the provincial board then took the responsibility to disseminate the money to the different CPFs. But that caused a lot of financial questions and queries, Chair, and a lot of audit challenges, and that is why we changed the model. I'll ask Advocate Pillay to provide a bit more detail. Maybe let me also just summarize on the issue of the CPFs and the EPP, Chair, to say that that payment model has now been taken up by National Minister Khayelitsha in the new policy document for CPF. So the Western Cape payment model will now be part of the model and the policy for all CPFs in the country. Minister Khayelitsha has not yet approved, but that policy document has gone all the way to the MINMEC level. Chairperson, in terms of the question of last year's targets, Honourable Member Botha, yes, we are a bit down, and that's because of the two big ones that we failed to meet. So last year, and I'll ask Ms. Mohammed to verify or confirm my figures, but we were, I think, at 97% versus this year. If I may, Chair, just ask Ms. Advocate Pillay to add, and then if Ms. Mohammed can just verify the figures, and if I'm wrong, just to indicate so. Please, Chair, through you.
That's all in order, sir. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson HOD, and good morning to the members as well. I would just like to also address the SOP 3.1.1. It has always been our intention to actually count the number of beneficiaries that are placed with partners. And if you look just beyond the SOP, I'm not sure if Nuran can reflect it, 3.1.1, there's the SOPI 3.1.1, and then the actual work opportunities created with partners, which we have overachieved on, where we have achieved 1,388. In terms of our partners, we want to place our youth with the correct partners that provide them the maximum amount of support and guidance and mentorship. So it's always our intention to place as many youth as possible with the correct strategic safety partners. So we will go back and have a look at that as well, but it has been always our intention to count the number of beneficiaries as opposed to the number of partners. And then in terms of the CPFs, I will send that through, Chairperson, if you will give me a few minutes, and I hopefully will get that information before we are done, and I will then share it with the members as well. Thank you, Chair.
Chair,
Thank you so much, Advocate Pillay. Yes, back to you, HOD.
Chair, if I can ask Ms. Mohammed just to verify the figures that I've presented to the committee, or rectify me if I'm wrong.
All good.
Thank you, HOD and Chairperson. That is correct. We've achieved 97% of our targets last year too, HOD.
Thank you, Chair. Over to you, sir.
Thank you to the HOD. Wasim told me in the week it's a year now and my probation is over. But it's always amazing to interact with the department and obviously with the members on this committee. And I would now take a second round of input and questions. Is there any member for clarity? Any additional questions? If I may, HOD, in terms of a target that has been achieved, one of the targets was to address the community safety needs by influencing the allocation of safety resources. That was achieved. If you can elaborate on that, as well as there would be a feel, I would say, within the Western Cape that isn't always the case in terms of safety resources that is being allocated fairly. If you can give us input in terms of that indicator, but also in terms of the monitoring and evaluation. I wanted to ask, visiting the target is that you need to visit 151 SAP stations, and that target has been met. If we can get more information on the target, but also then, is there any unannounced visits that would happen as well? Thank you. But is there any other member? Additional or follow-up question? I see Member Kama.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thanks for the responses from the department. Can you hear me, Chair?
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you very much. Also, Chair, in that spirit, if we can get, like on slide 20, you have the number of social crime prevention programs implemented per year. I see the target has been met. If the department can elaborate on these programs. Also, Chair, as a follow-up, perhaps getting clarity, if we can get a sense of how many chrysalis graduates are we looking at placing in a financial year, and what is then our placement rate? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. I'll now hand over to the department.
Chairperson, if we can start by saying we're very glad that you've done with your probation. It could have been worse. You could have been done with your parole. So, Chairperson, we are glad for that. I think
then I would have been one of the lucky people. Thank you, actually.
Sorry, you provoked us into that. So, Chair, I think the question on the that you asked in terms of the what we call the policing needs and priorities, Chairperson, that is if you are section 206(1) of the Constitution requires from the National Minister to make policing policy, but after considering the policing needs and priorities as determined by the Provincial Executive. And Section 2 allows for different policing policies for different communities based on their needs and their requests. So the process we follow, Chairperson, and I'll again ask Advocate Pillay to supplement with the technical, but the process we follow is basically ongoing consultation sessions with the different interest groups or different community members on either specific themes that we then compile a report on, and the report is then made public, but it is also then shared with the Minister. A process of public consultations to determine needs, Chairperson, is of course valuable, but there is also systemic failures in the process in that one can never articulate and specify in a report of that nature the needs and the request of all the different, be that groupings or even at an individual level. Again, Chairperson, the purpose of the report is to highlight systemic failures that we may have identified And that is similar to what we do through the court watching briefs. And of course, once we've identified the failures, the option is then to either refer the matter. Of course, we do refer the reports to the committee, but we also then refer the reports to the police, as well as, for instance, the Ombudsman on train burnings or whatever the case may be. Chairperson, I'm also just reminded by your second question in terms of monitor and evaluation that we did not respond adequately to the question from Mr. Kama on the inspection reports. What we do, Chairperson, firstly, there are different layers of inspections, if I can use that word. As part of the EPP, we do require from CPFs, as per the Section 18 of the Act, that they must visit the police station on a regular basis. When they do the visits to the stations, they do certain general observations. Some of it may seem to be simple, for a lack of a better word, Chairperson, like checking that all the police have their name tags as is required by their own standard operating procedure. But these are things that we know will impact on service delivery. We asked from them to verify the SO 101 register, the complaints register, and then they need to monthly submit their findings to the department as evidence that they've done the work. We use that information, Chairperson, then to identify which are the stations that we have a lot of complaints of a particular nature. Then we activate our inspectors. They then go to that police station to further investigate what is the cause of the number of negative reports and or complaints that we get, be that about the misuse of equipment or be that non-compliance by the police. When they do the inspections of the police stations, we follow the protocol and we use the national monitoring tool. This is a document that was consulted and drafted through the National Secretariat of Police. It has been consulted and agreed to with the National Police Service as well. And we then use that tool to measure compliance. And the results of that report, the compliance, we have a structured interview with the station commander when we arrive at this police station, and we have a structured interview with him or her when we leave the station. And the findings is then also forwarded to the Provincial Commissioner to afford him or her the opportunity to comment on the findings before we then send the report also to the Standing Committee and to the National Secretariat of Police. Chairperson, unannounced visits are made if and when they are required. We don't do those often, Chairperson, because we are mindful of the realities of the logistics that goes with an inspection like this, of this nature. But when there are reports, for instance, of people that has been injured in a cell or so, yes, then we do the unannounced visits. Advocate Pillay can maybe also supplement, because there has been request also from National to do some of these inspections on an unannounced basis. Chairperson, I'll also ask Advocate Pillay if she can maybe just speak on the number of social crime prevention programs. But I can also just mention that when you see the overachievement in targets, it's specifically those that relate to the awareness work on the neighborhood watches and or those that are linked to the accreditation of the neighborhood watches. And Chairperson, there I would like to respectfully remind the committee that during the adjustment budget for last year, we got a cash extra money, and therefore we had the funds to overachieve on those targets, and that is why you see an overachievement of it, because it's also always dependent on the resources at our disposal. Chairperson, with your permission, if I can hand over to Advocate Pillay.
All in order. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, HOD. If I could please start with the CPFs that did not perform on our expanded partnership program. I would name them. So it's Athlone, Kales River, Langa, Langaban, Nyanga, Philippi, Samora Machel, Sea Point, and Strandfontein. Those are the CPFs, Chairperson, that did not sign a transfer payment agreement with the department and perform on the expanded partnership program. We try and we endeavor to have awareness sessions with the CPFs, to conduct training, as well as engage with them in order for us to have a working partnership. But there is only so much the department can do to convince the CPF to actually partner with us and sign the transfer payment agreement and then submit reports in terms of the expanded partnership program, which is based on Section 18 of the SAPS Act. I would just like to then, in terms of the question on the Chrysalis graduates, the target for Chrysalis graduates for this year is 630. But as members will know, the Chrysalis expansion was also included in the Western Cape safety plan. And in terms of the safety plan, one is looking at other areas of expansion to reach more youth in communities. For example, having an outdoor leadership training program which will reach an additional 600 youth, to work closely with educators as well as learners at schools, including primary schools. Also to appoint youth ambassadors and to have youth hubs in communities so more youth can feel supported within the communities. In terms of the social crime prevention target, I will mention some of them, and Chair, you did participate in some of them with us. So we had a youth walk to promote safety of youth, and that was a joint initiative with the Chrysalis Academy and the WOW structure of the Western Cape government. We also had Women's Month events, Chair, that you attended as well, and some of the other members as well, and that was at Tulbagh as well as Mitchell's Plain. And then we had 16 days of activism events, and that was held in Gugulethu, Khayelitsha, Strandfontein, Bonteheuwel, Manenberg, Ocean View, as well as Hanover Park. Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of the station visits, the department for the first time will be producing a published booklet on all our station visits that have been undertaken for the year, and we will then gladly send that on to the standing committee as well. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, HOD.
Thank you so much to the HOD and to Advocate Pillay and the department. Members, for a last round of input and questions, I now note Member Ferlin Christians. Any other members? It will be Member Ferlin Christians. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson, and also I also want to thank the department for the answers and the good work that they are doing. But the one question, and I think we spoke about it before and grappled with it. So your Chrysalis program is completed, and you've got 100% placement. But you know, and if Advocate Pillay of the HD can just assist me here. So that is a year program. You partner with the municipality and so on. Did the department also look at, because we know after the program and after the placement, it's only temporary, many of these graduates goes unemployed. Did the department do a study on that, and what is the figures in that regard? Because then it means they go back of being unemployed after all the training and all the effort that, and I've been at the program, and I was very, very impressed with the way they speak, and those, you can see the transformation. But if the department can just give me some details on, you know, how many are then permanently employed and how many drop out, cannot be find employment, and are back on the streets. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Christians. I now see Member Brinkhuis.
Thank you, Chair. Member Brinkhuis here. Chair, I would like to, can you hear me?
Loud and clear,
Hello?
sir. You may go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I would like to thank the department also for the great work that they've been doing over the years. And I would like to ask the department also that in the coming years, what programs and what initiatives does the department have in mind with regard to mosques and churches all over the Western, in assisting them and helping them to make the Western Cape a more safer place. I don't see any by mosques and by church and other religious institutions helping making the Western Cape a more safer place. So if the department can just make a indication to how they will incorporate mosques and all different religious institutions in making the Western Cape a more safer place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Brinkhuis. If the presenter can just unshare the initial page, I'll now hand over directly to the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the questions. Responding to the questions of Honourable Member Christians, Chairperson, Mr. Christians is absolutely correct when he says that what we do is we take, as I said, 100% of the chrysalis students as they complete the program on graduation. We then give them, or we secure a work placement for them for a period of a year. Many of them are then extended to 18 months, depend on performance and so forth. And we also track them for a period of 5 years. But we do see that there's a significant drop of the students once they've completed the EPWP placement. And sadly, this is also linked to where we place them. Because if you place them, what we've seen often, if we place them, for instance, with a municipality or even with a social development department or so, we don't see that those placements then translate into permanent work opportunities. It has always been a difficult question for us, if I can use the practical example, placing the students, for instance, in the City Improvement District or the CIT in the CBD Cape Town. Many of those youngsters that are placed and that you see when you go to the gardens and so, they man that kiosk and they're always there. Chairperson, they actually have a very good opportunity to be placed, because that SID, if I remember correctly, maintains about a 70% translation into permanent work opportunities. But then I think the counter side of the coin is that we take students from an area like Khayelitsha or Mitchell's Plain or so, and we put them then in the CBD, where ideally we would like them to put them back in their communities where they come from, so that they can also work for safety in those communities. But then we are limited in terms of their job opportunity. It is for that reason also that in the new in the safety plan, as an apex priority, that's just the term used, of Minister for Economic Development, Minister Meinier. One of his targets now is to ensure the permanent placement, or let's say a real job opportunity for each of those chrysalis students after they've completed their, let's say, 12 months youth work placement. So we are very keen. We have not yet seen the results, but we are very keen to now collaborate with the Department of Economic Development in order to make sure that we will be able to achieve even better results in the full-time placement of the chrysalis students. And we will definitely, Chair, keep that in our reporting as we come back to report on that going forward. I think the question from Mr. Brinkhuis, again, sir, thank you for the question. We do have a target on what we call our Youth Safety Religious Program, YSRP, and that is where during school holidays, we then partner with the religious fraternity of all denominations in priority areas, and as wide as possible. We have constantly improved on that program over the last 5 years since we've started that. And the value of that program, Chairperson, is about 7.2 million rand per year. And this is then a partnership with the religious fraternity, because we acknowledge the important role that they are and have always played in making communities safe. We would again, Chairperson, if there are more information required, I think that is what Ms. Galant was trying to do, is to bring up that target. But we do have that target, Chairperson, and we are spending, as I said, on average about 7 million rand a year on the partnership with the religious fraternity. Chairperson, let me stop there.
HOD, thank you so much. Members, is there any other further follow-up or question? Before we excuse the department, we are doing well for time. I heard someone.
Thank you, Chair. It's again Member Brinkhuis here with a question.
Okay, you may go ahead, Sid.
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to ask the department that with regard to the many concerns of the community and complaints of the community with regard to the poor services at police stations, what is the department doing about that? Thank you.
Members, is there any other member that would like to ask a question or provide input at this time? Then I'll hand directly over to the HOD. After that, we will excuse the department after concluding remarks, and then I will give direction on the way forward. Thank you. Over to the HOD.
Chairperson, if you allow me, I would like to just give a bit of background to the question that Mr. Brinkhuis was asking without wasting your time. But as you may recall, the Khayelitsha Commission of Inquiry that was set up in 2014-15, one of the findings that they made was about the poor service delivery, but also about the way that the department was dealing with complaints from the community at the time, which basically, Chair, at the risk of oversimplifying the matter, but they were concerned that we were acting as a post office. We just got the complaints and we forwarded those to the police. It is for that reason then, Chairperson, that we invested in the legislation and then the establishment of the Western Cape Police Ombudsman. Now, the Police Ombudsman is by law a person with the requisite experience, knowledge, and technical ability to be able to thoroughly investigate all service delivery or community complaints. And the Ombudsman is then also staffed and supported by, if I might stand corrected, but currently by 8 qualified inspectors to help him to deal with the complaints. We are the only province, Chairperson, that currently have a police ombudsman, and it is an investment of almost 12 million rand a year that we are making in creating the capacity of the Western Cape government or of an independent entity, the Ombudsman, to be able to deal with the complaints. Chairperson, sadly, the detail of the APP or the targets of the Ombudsman is not reflected in our report, other than just to make sure that the legal compliance of the Ombudsman, namely the submission of an annual report to this committee and others, those are the only targets. But in terms of the dealing of the complaints, that is in the annual report and the targets of the Ombudsman, and maybe maybe that question can be posed to the Ombudsman. Chairperson, I think let me stop there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much to the HOD and to the members, HOD and Ms. Galant and Advocate Pillay and all the rest of the officials. Thank you for your participation in briefing us on the quarterly performance reports. We understand that your aim is always to increase safety, and we do appreciate the work that you do in ensuring that we are making safety everyone's responsibility. And as a committee, we appreciate the work that you do and also continue to see how we can work together. On that note, we appreciate you again, and you are now excused. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, as per the agenda item, and although our agenda can be rearranged at short notice, but considering the time 10 o'clock now and the email I sent in terms of the ATC Cultural Affairs and Sport and Community Safety and Cultural Affairs and Sport Standing Committee, I would recommend that we adjourn until 10:30, because it would be quite complex to get the department on earlier, as well as other relevant members that do not form part of community safety. Is that all in order?
Chairperson, Member Christians?
Yes, Member Christians.
I just don't understand this now. So what are you saying? Because I am not part of Cultural Affairs and Sport. So is this break now for us? And then what are we breaking? The members of the community safety then excused, or how does this work? I don't understand.
Okay, let me explain again. In terms of the email, Member Kama replied as well. In terms of the email, we need to adopt the report for community safety, cultural affairs and sport, which will need all the members. And obviously you would then give information and input in terms of community safety. But according to the agenda, that will happen from 10:30. Does that make sense?
No, Chair, I understand that 100%. I still think it's a big mix-up. I think this thing was ATC'd incorrectly because it's, I just don't know. This is giving us endless problems because I said I'm not part of Cultural Affairs and Sport, and now I must wait for Cultural Affairs and Sport because it's one report. But I'm going to leave it like I think it was wrong. ATC'd. I think it's 2 separate committees, but we can debate that on a later stage. But I'll come back at 10:30 then. Thank you.
No, I totally hear you. We are taking this up with the WCPP as well. Chair. But I now see Wasi Matthews. Yes.
Good morning, Chair and members. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. Members, I just have another suggestion. Given the fact that we've finished ahead off time by such a quite a few minutes. Why don't the members then adopt the draft minutes of the 18th of March for community safety, and then have a look at the combined report, specifically only the community safety aspect, and then whatever inputs are made, I'll record that, and then for the next session, you can just look at cultural affairs and sport, and then adopt the report as a whole, because you'd have already gone through half of it. In that way, then member Christians doesn't have to stay and come back at the time, because his input can actually be dealt with now if he has any input on community safety, because all the community safety permanent members are actually in this meeting already.
I prefer that idea. Thank you so much.
It's just another option.
Oh, you? No, I prefer. Is that in order, members? I like that idea. Member Christians, you happy with that?
I support
100%,
that.
Chair. Thank you. Support that.
Thank you so much.
I also support it, Chair.
Thank you so much. Our procedural officer will now put on firstly the minute. I trust that it has also been read previously. Members, we are on page number 1. If you can note your attendance. Page number 2. Is there any edits or amendments? If not, is there any member willing to move that we adopt?
Chair, Member Kama, I move that we adopt.
Thank you, Member Kama. Any member to second?
I second, Chair.
Thank you so much. Seconded by Member Christians. In terms of the combined annual activity report, that will be shared by our procedural officer. As we are waiting for the screen.
Can you see it, Chair? Is it
Not
visible?
yet.
Not yet. Okay, I'll just check again.
No, we can see the screen. We can see the screen.
So it's my chairperson's. We can't see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, members. I'm opening. I can't see it my side. I'm opening up a Word document. In terms of the annual activity report, I'll go directly to page number 2, heading number 2, dealing with community safety. I trust that it has been read already. But if you have any edits or amendments, I will now take those. Page number 2, heading 2. Any edits or amendments?
No.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone willing to move that we adopt?
Are we now on page 3? Yeah, page 3, page 2 and 3, adopt a chairperson. Just again, and I know I highlight this all the time, but yet again, I would request you to go back with, because if people look at, Member Mackenzie is very good in this, he says, if people look 10 years and they read this report, they will think that I was part of Cultural Affairs and Sport as a member, and it will come out that I've never attended those meetings. So I think, Chairperson, you'll have to look at, I think this thing was wrong, 80 because I even look at the votes is also different, you know, so it doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to leave it, but I adopt the report. Thank you, Chair.
No,
I support the adoption
thank
of
you.
the report.
Thank you so much, Member Botha. I have noted your input as well, Member Christians. In reference to the email that I forwarded in this, with reference to this now, I will take this up again and then I will come back to you as soon as possible. But thank you so much. Members, on that note, we will now adjourn until 10:30. It will be preferable if you are able to log in by 10:25 in order to be online, as we will then be welcoming the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport at 10:30 according to the agenda. Thank you so much.
Chairperson, and the safety committee is then excused, eh? That's correct.
Yes, you are excused, sir.
Thank you.
Member Kam, thank you, sir. Member Kama, will you be back at 10:30?
Yes, I will, Chair.
Oh, okay, thank you. So 10:30 we will then reconvene. We are adjourned for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Chair.
We will reconvene within the next 2 minutes, if that is in order with everyone. Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Regan Ellen, Member Brancais. And good morning, Member Buata. How are you? Everything is good?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm good. Yes, thank you very much.
Good to hear your voice, Member Buata.
Thank you. Good to hear you too.
Thank you, members. I just want to check with our procedural officer in terms of us being a quorum to continue at this time.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, you are correct. You are 4 members present, which is sufficient.
Thank you so much. Members, we will now reconvene. It is now 10:32, and in terms of our agenda item, the department will then present at 10:45, and we have already dealt with part 2 of our committee document for community safety, cultural affairs and sport. So we will deal with part 1, specific reference to cultural affairs and sport. But firstly, our procedural officer will then put up the minutes for 17 March. Mr. Matthews, if you are able
it is
to.
showing. Can the members confirm that they can see it?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Okay, Chair, I think it might just be on your side.
Sorry, Chair,
but
Member Brancais, I can't see anything on my screen yet.
Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Matthews.
I have confirmation that there are members and also the ICT staff can see the document being shared. So it might just be only a lag on certain person's side.
If we
so
are able, if any member is unable to see, the minutes for 17 March, I would refer you to your email of Thursday at 1:28, where the minutes was attached. And I now present the minutes because I consider it to be read. If we can go to page number 1, 17th of March, if you can check your attendance. Page number 2. I note Member Botha.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move for that we adopt the draft minutes.
Any member to second?
I second the adoption, Chair. Member Kama.
Thank you, Member Kama. The minutes for 17th March is now duly adopted. Our procedural officer will now present on the screen the combined annual activity report. Prior to adjournment, we dealt with part 2. We will now deal with part 1, cultural affairs and sport. We are on page 1. If there's any edits or amendments. Member Botha, is your hand still up or is this another one?
Chair, I'm just checking with our procedural officer in regard to what I have sent, the amendment to him, whether it has been changed. I can't see. It's not so far up that I can see on the screen. So I'm just checking that.
I've noted the changes and I will effect it after I'm done sharing the screen.
Okay. Then, Chair, I move to adopt with that amended change.
Thank you so much. Members, I trust that is all in order.
Yes, Chairperson, that's in order.
Thank you so much. The annual activity report is now adopted.
Adopted
we are
with
7 minutes with the relevant changes. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. We are 7 minutes away from the presentation in terms of the department, but in terms of representatives from the department, I want to check if everyone is online already. But I note Member Kama, your hand is up, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to request that maybe after the changes have been made, if the report can be forwarded to us.
I agree with that. Thank you so much. Our procedural officer will duly circulate the final report. Thank you, Member Kama. Mr. Matthews, are we able to ascertain if all departmental officials have joined us?
Chairperson, thank you. There are departmental officials in the meeting. The HOD has extended an apology, so I'm not sure if the person who's acting on his behalf is here, but I see Mr. Redman, Dr. Dlamuka, and quite a few others as well. So perhaps you could do some intros if you so wish, and the department can perhaps just indicate if the person leading the discussion is already in the meeting. I see
so much.
Boaz now entered the meeting, so they should be able to present from now onward.
Thank you so much. This meeting has already been reconvened. For the record and for reference to the departmental officials, I now allow members to introduce themselves for the record.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson, and to the department, Lorraine Botha.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm Gillian Bosman.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair, and to the department, I'm Mesule Kama.
Good morning, Chair, Member Brankes.
Thank you so much, members. We further note the apology extended to the second half for Member Barnes as well as for the HOD. To the department, thank you for your availability this morning. You are welcomed, and I trust that we will have a fruitful engagement in your briefing and presentation. Members, the briefing deals with Cultural Affairs and Sport on its first, second and third quarterly performance reports for 2019-2020. I will now hand over directly to Dr. Lyndon Bauer, who will be presenting or leading the delegation for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning, everybody. We have sent the apology from the HOD, who is in the Provincial Cabinet at the moment, with the brief on the humanitarian crisis and also with the Tygerberg hotspot. And I'm joined today by my other colleagues from the department. So, Chair and members, if you will allow, I will just indicate who is in the room that will be joining us for this presentation and will also be available for questions afterwards. We will have Mr. Guy Redman, that is the Chief Director for Arts and Culture. He will be joined by Ms. Jane Mololeki, the Director of Arts and Culture. We will also be joined by Dr. Nkolisi Dlamuka, who is responsible for heritage and museums. We also have Cecilia Sani, the Director of Libraries. We also have Nomaza Dingayo, who is responsible for the archives. Then we are also joined by Ghulam Mohammed, who is responsible for the ECM. Then we have Mr. Sean Julie, who is responsible for strategic matters in the department. And then we will also be joined by Paul Hendricks and Tabu Tutu from the Sport Directorate. We also have Stephanie Thomas, and we also have Dion Berger, that is from the Office of the HOD. I will be doing the presentation, Chair and members, and if there are any questions afterwards, we would then be able to take those questions. Dion, did I leave anyone out? Okay, so I think then we're all covered.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bauer. We now hand over to you, and as directed by you in terms of any questions and input that is for an official, we will take your lead in that, sir. Directly over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to confirm, Chair, if the presentation is on screen.
Not yet. If you are able to share your screen, your side.
I'll just share the screen, Chair. Okay. I'm just getting to the sharing of the screen, Chair. Okay. Stephanie, can you just put the presentation up, please? Ms. Thomas will just put the presentation up, Chair.
Chairperson?
Yes, member. Yes, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you for the upgrade. Chairperson, I'm sharing the screen now if the department is unable to. So if you could just confirm that it is being shared.
Thank you very much. It is. Thank you very much. It is.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you could just give me an indication.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews. If you can share that. Member Botha, I see your hand is raised.
I'm covered by what was just said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Botha.
Thank you, Chair. I'm ready to proceed. Thank you. So, Chair and members, we The department is pleased to be able to present today the summary of our report. In terms of program 1, which we've broken it up into our 4 programs, we had the 5 target indicators that were all met, and we had the 100% achievement. Similarly, in program 2, we had 19 indicators and 19 were met with the 100% indicators on that side. In terms of program 3, there were 34 targets and 31 were met, with 3 that were not met, to giving an overall percentage of 91%, chair and members. Program 4 had 47 targets, 47 were met with the 100% achievement, and in total, chair and members, there were 105 indicators, 102 that were met with the percentage, thus giving us 97%. If we can go to the second slide, member. Then in terms of program 1, that's just a representation, Chair, of the various indicators that we've just spoken about. So this is the summary. So we can proceed to the second one. Chair, there was 7 overachievements in this particular program, just for noting, but all the indicators were met. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. Chair, in this one, 31 that were met with an overachievement of 16 that gave us the percentage target of 91%, and we have the 3.38, which was the number of records consulted by researchers, and Ms. Dingayo will be able to speak about that during any question times that may arise. We also have 1.5, which is a conditional grant, which is the number of municipalities that receive the conditional grant, and also the number of libraries that receives upgrades, and Ms. Sani will be able to speak on any questions relating to that after this. The next slide, Chair. The next slide had program 4, and that one had the 47, and there were 18 overachievements, Chair, and in this particular one, a large number of the percentage relating to program 4 will also have voluntary indicators where people pitch up for marathons or pitch up for training courses, etc., which is not always possible then to indicate, but both Mr. Tutu and Mr. Hendricks will be available for any questions on that one. The next slide. This is the Western Cape Language Committee. 3 indicators, all 3 met, no overachievement, so that's 100%. Thank you. The public entities, the Heritage Western Cape. Can we just go back to the previous one, member? Thank you. So that was the Language Committee. This is now the analysis of the public entities, and we do have Jane Molaleki, the CEO, that is in the room, that will be able to take questions. And we three indicators, 3 targets met, 100% compliance. Thank you. The next one is Heritage Western Cape, and we do have the CEO of Heritage Western Cape, Dr. Damuka, and that is 6 indicators and 5. 1 was not met, and there was 3 overachievements. So they'll be able to take any questions later. And then the next one is the Western Cape Cultural Commission. 3 targets, 2 were met, and 1 target indicator not met. Chair and members, that is our presentation for this morning, and we are available to take any questions that members may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bauer. If I can just double check for the rules of engagement for this morning, if you are not speaking, please do not please do not put on the video, but also for all mics to be muted. We are hearing various background noises. That is much better. Thank you so much for adhering to it. Members, we will now go straight into input and questions. Is there any member that would like to ask a question, clarification, I see Member Botha. We are grateful for Friday morning that we are getting this briefing, and thank you, and we welcome the briefing from the department. Thank you, Dr. Bowa, and all the officials for being here once again. I see Member Brunkhuis. Let me take it in that order for now. Member Botha.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and thank you to the department for the presentation. And I wish to congratulate them in achieving all the targets. And I just want to ask, in comparison to the previous financial year, how does this report compare to that? Thank you.
Member Brunkhuis.
Thank you, Chair. My question, and I first want to acknowledge and say thank you to the department for the great work that they are doing. My question is with regard to the Department of Sports. That here in the Western Cape, the cricket season has come to an end because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But there was in the local leagues here in the city of Cape Town, there was one match that wasn't played to end of the season. I would just like to know from the department what the measures the department is going to take with regard to that one match that wasn't played to complete the season. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Brunkhuis. I will allow the department to answer if they are willing to, although we are dealing with the quarterly performance reports for 1, 2, and 3. But I'll now see Member Kama.
Thank you, Chair, and let me also welcome the presentation and share the sentiments of Member Botha around the congratulating the department for achieving its set targets, and perhaps just say I would have also loved to see what are these actual indicators, but I also do understand that it would have been a very lengthy document, taking that the department in some cases has about 47 total target indicators. But with that as it may, Chair, I want to get an explanation, Chair, on the targets that have not been met. But I see in one, I think in slide 5, it is indicated. But on the other slides where there is a target that is not met, it's not indicated. And perhaps, Chair, on slide 9, I don't know if I'm reading the document wrong, but there are 3 total target indicators. And the target indicators met, there are 2, but it indicates that there is 0 not met when it's 2 that are met, when there are 3 that were targeted. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. To the department as well, in terms of the targets that has not been met, or the indicators that has not been met, especially the library, are we able to get an indication on where those libraries are situated, where the targets have not been met? But also to Dr. Bowa, if there is any of the underachievements or overachievements that you would want to zoom in on more, I would also provide you with that opportunity, sir, so that we can get a broader understanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. I will be assisted by the department. So just to compare the first one, Member Botha, for last year, we achieved 106 out of the 108 performance indicators last year as well. So we had a very good percentage last year, and we will go into a very similar one last year. We only had 2 that was not met. One was at archives, where we didn't meet one of the targets, and one was at libraries. So and we Ms. Dingayo and Masani would indicate, but 106 out of the 108 was our comparison for last year. For Member Brinkhuis, we will engage, I will ask Mr. Tutu to engage with Western Province Cricket. As you will appreciate, the federations are the custodian of their particular sport, so they would normally make their own decision on what they will be doing about the final ones. As members will know or may have seen, the Spanish Soccer League started last night, and also the English Soccer League starts next week to complete their seasons. So we will, I think when Mr. Tutu has a moment on Monday, we will speak to the CEO at Western Province Cricket, and then perhaps just send Wasim a note on what they have decided about the cricket, if that's in order, Chair. Then with Mr. Karma, we will certainly go into the slide 5 and slide 9, and we'll just go into those ones with those specific persons. I'm going to ask Ms. Sani to just speak about the library question, Chair, that you have posed. So if we can just go to Ms. Sani to just speak about which libraries were affected.
Good morning, everyone. Our conditional grant indicators 1.5 and 1.6 we didn't meet, and that's just due to one municipality, and that's Beaufort West municipality. So when the conditional grant business plans was finalized, they wanted to upgrade the Khayelitsha library in Beaufort West. But then subsequently after that, they decided they no longer want to upgrade, they actually want to build a new library. So we then didn't transfer the funds to them, which is why we didn't meet 1.5. And then we didn't support the upgrade is why we did not meet 1.6. So it's both because of the Khayelitsha library in Beaufort West.
Thank you to the department. I also welcome Member Peter Marais, who has joined us at this time. Can you all hear me, members?
Thank you, Chair, for the welcome. Sorry that I'm a few minutes late. Welcome, members.
No problem. Thank you so much. Department? Dr. Bauer?
Sorry, Chair, I had myself on mute. Chair, we're going to go to Nomaza for slide 5, and she would be assisted by Mr. Redman when necessary. Mr. Redman or Ms. Nomaza, who would like to go first?
I can go first.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, members, and good morning, colleagues. In terms of the indicator that we didn't achieve, that is the number of records consulted. What we do is, this is the records that the visitors to the archives or the researchers consult when they get to the archives. We had a target of 47,000, and we only met, we did 40,498. So we had a deficit of 6,502. And the reason for that is the fact that we had a challenge with the lifts. Our lifts were not working, and what has happened in this financial year, only one lift was working, and we have 5 floors in the building. So colleagues had to go up because members of the public are not allowed to go to our stack rooms to get the records. The records have to be fetched by staff members. They have to go up to the 5 floors, and some of the records are heavy, so they need to use a lift. So what happened is that one lift was not working, and then there is a project that has been started by the Department of Transport and Public Works of replacing our lifts with new lifts. So they also stopped one lift in November because the project started in November. They are replacing both lifts. So we couldn't meet the target because of that challenge.
Thank you very much. We will now go to Jane for slide number 9. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Chairperson. For slide number 9, just to say that all the targets for the Cultural Commission were met. The targets, so we will look into this slide, but all the targets were met for the year.
Thank you, Jane. Can we go to Dr. Lemuka from Heritage Western Cape?
Thank you, Chairperson. The only target that was not met for Heritage Western Cape was the number of outreach programs. We had a target of hosting, but we did not meet this target because of the COVID-19. What it required was that we were going to have meetings with stakeholders, but these meetings were going to take place in March. Because of now, before even the lockdown was declared, we were very much careful of having number of people meeting in groups. So we were short of this target by 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think at this stage, Chair, we've covered all the questions that you have earlier posed. And at this stage, Chair, I think the important one for us is just to note that we're happy that we were able to achieve our targets to the extent that we were, because of course many of the things that we have to achieve is with members of the public, where they have to visit our archives or they have to visit the museums or visit sport and recreation events. So at this stage, Chair, we're happy to take any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bauer. It's always a sentiment that cultural affairs and sport touches every aspect and every person within the Western Cape. Hence, we do appreciate you being here. Members, also in terms of the email that was distributed, we have received a narrative report in terms of the that goes with the presentation. But I'm going to take a second round of questions during this time or input. But to the department, if I can just kickstart in terms of the number of EPWP job opportunities that were created, are you able to give us an idea of the spread and where that is, if it's X amount within the metro and X amount in the rural areas, if we can get an understanding of that as well. But also when other opportunities were available to beneficiaries because they find alternative employment. Normally, what is the process in that regard to get more people to fill those EPWP jobs? But also in terms of the practitioners that are benefiting in terms of culture and arts that are benefiting from capacity building opportunities. If you can elaborate on that more, please, but also the spread where that is happening. Members, I'll now take a second round of questions or input. Do I see any hands? In the order, I see member Peter Mare. Any other member? Over to you, Mr. Mare.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chairperson. I am very interested in the EPWP being deployed for urban renewal projects. I've had too many instances of complaints where I visited personally these places where the dumping of dirt and refuse is ridiculously high. A very bad place to raise a child in. I found it in Delft, in Bishoplevis, nooit gedacht, Valhalla Park. And then I say myself, can any good come out of the ghetto? The way we are operating in the ghetto. I want a shack attack and a dirt attack program. Let's call it by name. It's a filth attack. We should name this project to clean up, and they will be creating thousands of jobs. People must go out, clean up these dirty, filthy flats and the surrounds, and let people realize they're human beings and not animals. If the extended public work program could be utilized so that the communities can feel something is being done in recognition of them as human and not as a subspecies of the human race. It breaks my heart when I see what the townships look like. Luckily, I often visit them because Parliament has given us permits to move a bit around. And what you see there, if it doesn't fill you with utter disgust, we shouldn't be members of Parliament. I want to know, EPWP, what are you doing about cleaning up townships? I don't want to hear about painting white lines onto roads. I want to see real jobs being done. And then what are you doing to revive culture in Athlon's Joseph Stone Auditorium, which I know the Honourable Allen, he likes that. He himself, like me, have been part of the music industry in the Capes. I was there since the 60s. What are we doing to revive it? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Member Marais. I'll now hand over to the department.
Thank you, Chairperson and Member Marais. So in order to answer the EPWP, there will be 3 speakers. It will be Mr. Redman, and it will be Jane Mololeki that will talk about the opportunities. And between Jane and Guy, they will also talk about Athlone and Joseph Stone. And Mr. Paul Hendricks will also speak about the EPWP opportunities within the recreation sector. We start off with Mr. Redman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I will speak to the EPWP in the culture sector. Ms. Mololeki will speak to the capacity building opportunities and where they are located. With respect to the EPWP in the culture sector, they are in every region of the Western Cape, and we can provide a detailed list of which towns specifically. But in terms of the components within the department that have EPWP, it's the libraries, and all the regional libraries have got EPWP. It's the archives, it's the museums. The museums have got 2 programs in EPWP. There are some that are dealing with specifically with collections and others that are dealing with tourism development. So all the museums that are spread throughout the province all have got EPWP. And then there are cultural organizations, for example, Artscape and others would also host some EPWP. The focus of our program is specifically on culture. So you have youngsters who want to pursue a career in culture. We use the EPWP program to expose them to opportunities so that it renders them more employable. So those that are working in museums are working with collections. Those that are working at Artscape, for instance, are dealing with lighting, wardrobe, etc. And they are being exposed to all the careers within that field. And then it makes them a little bit more employable because they've got that on their CVs. I think I'll stop there, Chair. I think what we can commit to doing is giving you a proper outline of, in this museums, we've got 5. This museum is located in Tilbach, etc., so that we give you a thorough report, but they are covered in every region of the Western Cape. Thank you, Chair.
Jane? Jane, you're on mute.
Anything of Jane. I only see a face.
Members, I just got disconnected, but I'm back on now again. So sorry, members, do we have any input or questions this time?
Chair, we were still with the EPWP. We were still with the EPWP, Chair. If you will just allow Ms. Mololeki and Mr. Hendricks just to add to Mr. Marie's response, to our response.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please go ahead. Thank you.
I'm responding to the question around the capacity development programs for arts development. Chairperson, just to mention that our programs are implemented both in the metro and in the municipalities. The municipalities that we reach out to about are in the West Coast, the Beaufort West, which is Karoo area, Knysna and George. We're also running programs. We also out in our own metro in the Khayelitsha area, in the Harare, Gaza, and also within the Cape Wineland areas, Chairperson.
Thank you, Jane. Chair, we just have Paul Hendricks still just a comment on the EPWP, and then we would have concluded our input on that one. Paul Hendricks, please.
Good morning, everybody. Chair and members, we have 201 EPWP workers that do coaching across the province at various schools or various mod centers and neighboring centers. Of that 201, 145 of them come from the social sector, which is a national budget, and a further 56 of them come from a provincial budget, and they also spread across the province. So from a national budget, we get approximately 5 million rand, and from the provincial budget, we get approximately 2 million rand. And that employs the 201 EPWP workers that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I have a follow-up question, please, sir, because they never answered any of my questions.
We will do that now. Thank you, Member Marais. To the department, we will now take a second round of questions, but also questions regarding clarification or further input. I see Member Marais and I see Member Brunkhuis. Is there any other member? Over to you, Member Marais.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, that is very weak answers. I didn't know where they are busy with EPWP. I don't want to know you're busy in West Coast. I want to know what you're doing there. I don't want to know what you're doing. You're busy in Knysna, George, and that. That's evading my question. When are you going to use EPWP, which is a job creation project, because we have a lot of unskilled labor out there looking for work? When are you going to start cleaning up our townships in an urban renewal program? I don't want to know where you are. I want to know, what do you do? I don't want to hear about the artscape. The artscape was always for whites only. We never could go there. And I still think a lot of us don't go there even now. I want to see culture developed in my own areas. In Mitchells Plain, in Athlone. I want to see what are you doing for culture projects there. Please answer the question.
I appreciate your... Thank you so much, Member Marais. I know that question. I do know specific with regard to cultural affairs and sport, but also in urban renewal and EPW opportunities that is made available via other departments and via other governments like the city of Cape Town, for example. But I will allow that question and get input from the department. But I see Member Brunkhuis and Member Kama in that order.
Thank you, Chair. I want to ask the department that many of our sports and recreational facilities here in the Cape Flats is in a very, very bad condition. What plans does the department have to see to this ongoing problem? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. And let me also thank the department for the answers that have been provided so far. Chair, I see in the narrative report, I see that, and congratulations once again to the department that in terms of the mod centers, that we have met the targets there. Now, I want to check then, Chair, in terms of monitoring and evaluation. How do we monitor the operations of these mod centers, and whose responsibility is it to ensure that the different schools linked to the mod centers do participate? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, members. I'll hand over to the department.
Thank you, Chair and members. So I will start off with Mr. Marais' question first, and then I will then ask Mr. Guy Redmond just to add further clarification. I will then also just handle Mr. Brunkhuis's question, member, about the sport facilities, and then Mr. Hendricks will handle the mod center question at the end, and also add to the EPWP. So I will start, Mr. Marais. The grant that we are involved in with the EPWP is administered by the Department of Transport and Public Works. They work with the national department, and then in the particular sector, there are grants that is made available for arts and culture, and also now for coaches as well. We then participate in that grant, but the EPWP grant is for all the different departments, and as Chairperson Allen has indicated, the Department of Environmental Affairs and local government would then have to then apply for their EPWP opportunity in order to have the job cleaning from our department, who has the constitutional mandate of the promotion of sport, arts and culture. We would then participate in that sector of the EPWP grant. And Mr. Redmond will be able to answer once to conclude once I've finished my input. In terms of Member Brunkhuis, member, in terms of the Constitution 1996 Schedule 5A and B, sport facilities fall under the mandate of the local municipality where they are situated. So we will certainly be having an engagement with the City of Cape Town about their facilities, but at this stage they would budget for their facilities. Our total budget for facilities is 1.6 million, and that is only to assist with the upgrade or construction of facilities. But we will certainly be taking up that particular question about the facilities on the Cape Flats and asking the City of Cape Town. And Member Brunkhuis may know that there is a parliamentary question that was posed about certain of the facilities in Lentegeur and others in Tafelsig, and we responded to that about 2 weeks ago as well. Then first we will take Guy just to help with the clarification on EPWP, and then Paul, if you can then after Guy speak about the mod centers. Mr. Redmond.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Bowe has covered quite a lot. Basically, the EPWP is split up into different sectors. You've got the social sector, which is the one that Mr. Hendricks just spoke about. Then you've got the environment and culture sector, which is the one that I spoke about. In the environment and culture sector, the kinds of activities that Member Murray is referring to will be addressed by the Department of Environmental Affairs, will be addressed by the City of Cape Town Solid Waste Department. Our allocation falls under the culture sector. So we only deal with EPWP programs that deal with enhancing cultural activities or cultural skills of beneficiaries. It focuses only on culture, does not focus on stream cleaning, urban regeneration, etc. So all the various departments have got various focus areas, and I think this question would best be asked to the Department of Environmental Affairs. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, from my side, to add to the EPWP, if Member Murray will remember correctly, he in fact attended our production at the Joseph Stone during the course of last year. And also to add that our coaches that we employ are not only sport coaches, but they are arts and culture coaches as well. And many of them are placed, these EPWP workers are placed as coaches at a number of our different mod centers and neighboring school centers within the metro, particularly in the Athlone area as well. So that's how they get utilized with regards to arts and culture, as well as how we utilize the Joseph Stone Auditorium. Then to add to the mod center, the question around the mod centers. So we have mod centers across all the different districts of the province, and the M&E that takes place at the mod centers are fourfold. The one set of M&E takes place through the district sport councils, which are the sport councils of the Western Cape Provincial Sport Confederation. Then in the education department, they have school enrichment program managers in each of the districts who do M&E from their side. Then from our department side, we have what we call mod program officers and sport promotion officers. And they would do monitoring and evaluation from our side directly as a directorate. And then from the department itself side, we have district managers in each of those districts, and they also do monitoring and evaluation. So all of these parties ensure that the coaches are doing what they're supposed to be doing in recreation, sport, arts, and culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Back over to you.
Thank you to the department members. As per the meeting chat, if your hand is still raised for an additional question or follow-up, I still note the same hands raised. So let me go to Member Murray.
Thank you so much. Thanks, department officials, for the clarity on this issue. Mr. Chairman, there's something radically wrong in the allocation of funds. You know, when I speak about colored people and black people, they are sport lovers, they're cultural lovers, they're music lovers. And we get 1.6 million for upgrade and construction only? What is wrong with these people? How can they only get their 1.6 million? I think, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, something must be looked at very seriously about this. I've been to Delft. They don't have any sport fields or facilities where young people can get rid of their energy and just kick around a ball or hockey field or anything of that nature. Non-existent. The same in Bishop Lavis, nooit gedacht. And 1.6 million? I'm shocked. I think that we should have a relook at reprioritizing our budget.
Member Murray, thank you so much. I think everyone on this committee share the sentiment that we would want to see that the conditions for access to participation and to identify the talent and skills development in various communities are definitely not only increased, but we can then see a difference in that. Thank you for your input. I will now see Member Brunkhuis.
I'm fine for now, Chair. Thank you.
I will lower your hand, Member Brunkhuis, if I can see Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, in the presentation that we had earlier with ComServe, we've seen the introduction of a new target indicator which looked at the number of graduates that are placed. Now, I want to check with the Department of Cultural Affairs as it relates to the mod centers, if they will be prepared to look at creating a new indicator that will allow us to set targets in terms of looking at the number of people that use the mod centers, if you get what I'm trying to get to, Chair, so that to see how many people use the mod centers and are they impactful in the different areas they exist. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. Member Bosman.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was just listening to Member Marais saying that there's no sports fields in Delft, which I don't find to be true. I used to work as a councillor in Delft, and there's several sports fields in Delft. And I think what we should do as one of our resolutions is we should ask the department to engage with all the municipalities in the province and give us a breakdown of what the different facilities are in the different areas, be it metro or non-metro. Because we can't go around saying that there's no facilities. There are facilities. And in many cases, Chair, these facilities are maintained and paid for at a great cost to the taxpayer. But there are elements in communities that vandalize and destruct these facilities. We've seen it across the metro where sports and recreational facilities are put up at a great cost, and it does cost sometimes in the hundreds of millions of rands to build these facilities, and the communities are not the ones looking after it. So we can't be a part of a parliamentary committee and then blast the department for having no facilities when we know for a fact that there are facilities. So my request would be that we get a list of where these facilities are, and we can break these facilities down into what they do, whether they are sports fields or whether they are recreational facilities, and we can get a breakdown of which of these facilities are funded by the provincial government and which of these facilities are funded by the national government as well as by municipalities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much, Member Member Bosman. Member Marais, I see you re-raised your hand. If it's specific to the comment made by Member Bosman, can I ask that we deal with that in terms of our actions and our resolutions directly after the briefing and questions has been done?
Sir, I just want to tell Member Bosman, it's time you repay Eindhoven a visit. Seeing you pretend to know the area of Delft so well. I've been there. There's only dirt dumps. But if you know that the dirt dump is Socrates, let us know.
Marais, I wouldn't want to stifle the debate, but it might be a back and forth. We will then park it for now and then discuss it during our resolutions. I trust you find that in order.
I do, Mr. Chairman, and I respect the chair and I abide by your ruling.
Thank you so much. I'll now give over to the department for any clarification or answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will start and I will then hand over to Mr. Hendricks about the target indicators and the graduates. So, Chair, just to confirm that if there is a resolution about obtaining the information relating to the facilities, that will be no problem. We will engage with the municipalities. But just to remind Chair and members that Schedule 5A and B governs the local the facilities that are located within municipalities. So at this stage, the provincial government is only in charge of the Philippi Stadium. We are not in charge of any other facility, sporting facility within the province, because that facility would then fall within that particular municipality. When national government makes money available through the MIG or the COCTA, then that money is transferred to the relevant municipality, who then upgrades and constructs, and that municipality has to then in turn continue to maintain the facility. So I doubt that National would own any facilities in the province as well, Chairperson, because of that, because the MIG and the COCTA allows a transfer to the municipality. But we welcome if there will be such a resolution, and we will then engage with the municipalities so that they can send us a list of their facilities that we will be able to make available to this committee, Chair. So on that score, I will abide, and then ask Mr. Hendricks just to speak about the graduates, the question that Member Karma posed to us. Mr. Hendricks?
The question that Member Karma posed was with regards to the target setting. So just with regards to the target setting or having an amount that needs to be counted in the APP, it's very difficult because the nature of attendance is voluntary. And also year on year, it's dependent on the budget that we get, and we get budgets from different streams. So to upfront set a target would be extremely difficult. However, what we can do, every month we collect stats with regards to how many people attend, whether it be during the course of the week or whether it be during holiday programs. So to provide those monthly stats or quarterly stats won't be a problem at all. Just in relation to that particular question, I think setting a target is going to be extremely difficult because of the type of explanation I've just given. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bauer. Members, I want to reiterate in terms of what we are dealing with today is the quarterly performance reports for 1, 2, and 3. If there's any specific questions to the report, to the agenda item, I'll now take a last round before we conclude. Specific to, do I see any hand? Member Marais?
I got no more questions. I think I've had my fill, so thank you.
Thank you so much, members. To the department and to Dr. Bauer, thank you so much for availing yourself. I think the sentiment rings that we obviously want to work together. We want to see how we can not only see the department create opportunities, be it through extra funding and the collaboration, because we want to see more of our areas participating in cultural affairs and sport in order for us to then see the benefit of it. Thank you so much for your availability, to all the chief directors and other officials for participating as well. It is highly appreciated. You are now humbly excused. Thank you so much.
Chairperson, thank you. Thank you very much to yourself and to the members for inviting us today, and we wish you well for your deliberations. Thank you. We will now exit the meeting. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Members, thank you for your interaction in terms of cultural affairs and sport. In terms of the next action step, some of the resolutions and action step has already been mentioned during our briefing session now, but I will take one round of if there's any resolutions, but also that any request for information or recommendations can also be emailed directly to Wasim, stemming from today, and a timeline by Wednesday, 12 o'clock next week. Is there any urgent one that you want us to discuss now, or you want to share verbally? I see Member Kama.
Okay.
No, thank you, Chair. Mine is one, so I think I must just raise it now. It's in the ComSafe one. On program 4, I think it was slide 30, they had a target of conducting a feasibility study on the integration of security at, I think it's Department of Health facilities with dogs. If the department can share the findings of that study to us, Chair, understanding that I think in our social cluster visit, the issue of security is one of the issues that was raised, the security in our health facilities. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Kama. Members, remember, it can also be emailed directly to the procedural officer. But I say, Member Mare.
Chair, I will do what you say. I will draft the resolution and forward it to the procedural officer, because I'm very concerned about the environmental department not upgrading townships and sport and culture becoming like they say, the proverbial black sheep in terms of the total budget.
Thank you so much, Member Mare. Any other member? If not, I'll ask Wasim to also just send a reminder by Monday if any other members would want to submit any requests for further information. Before we conclude, members, I have one announcement or update, is that our committee must be briefed by COCTA on the customary initiation bill. I've engaged the Chief Whip as well as our procedural officer, and we are looking at the 21st of July 2020 for this briefing to happen, which thereafter we will then have our deliberations in terms of our negotiation mandate and then our final mandate. But that is an announcement for the 21st of July regarding the customary initiation bill. Do you have any further comment or concluding remarks from anyone before we adjourn? I see Wasim, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Just a correction, it's the 15th of July. I think the invite was already forwarded to members, so it should be in their calendar, but I'll just double check on that. But it's for the 15th of July.
Yes, it's the 15th now. Also, that is thanks to member Wendy Verlander, who assisted in us getting an even earlier date a week before. Thank you for the correction.
It was a donation on behalf of the committee.
Yes, thank you so much. Members, on that note, for this Friday, thank you so much for your participation, for the vibrancy, and I do appreciate and value you all. Thank you to the procedural officer, to our IT assistant staff, Sir, and Candace, also for Mr. Bendaza that was online. Thank you so much, members. May you have a peaceful and a blessed weekend. Thank you so much. This meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Chair, and good